Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wigan Fan TV. Myself, Mark, this evening, Stu, and just joining us just in time is that pixelated face just underneath me on the screen of the Wigan runner, moving so fast that he's actually stood still at the moment, stuck in hyperspace somewhere. So I'm so sure he will join us properly. Mark, you were away last week for the absolute chaos that David Bailey sort of threw us into. You said that you managed to listen to the show. I actually think that's probably the best way of experiencing it.
Was he all over the place as much visually as he was audibly?
I've never seen anything like it, Stu. It was incredible, wasn't
it? It was unbelievable, wasn't it? And then to say at the end of the day, everything you are Jesus. Well, that just put the icing on the cake, didn't it? You know what I mean?
So everybody will be.
I wasn't aware that he knew so much about this Jesus' life and stories, though. He seemed to be able to correct all of your.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Matt McCauley being put on the spot because it was religious. That's what I sorry for Bubba Matt.
I don't know where that even came from to even. Anyway, he's serving a 2-week suspension at the moment. We said that he can go to the sort of the committee probably tomorrow night. And probably get it reduced to 1 week, but it depends how he's feeling next week. But he probably doesn't want to come back on.
Probably the jury puts in his cider.
Well, yeah, exactly. So anyway, so no David this evening, no Matt this evening as well. Matt has decided that he's better than us this evening. He's gone taking his show of the Mass Debate onto his comedy podcast this evening. So he's going to. I wouldn't say it flopped on here. It would be probably incorrect to say his Mass Debate flopped on this show, but it was a bit confusing for us. I think is probably the easiest way of putting it. So he's now trying it on his sort of on his podcast over there. Matthew, if you can hear us.
What's going on with Matthew?
I don't know. I'm going to take him out, so I'm not looking at his face. Right, and then Stu, me and you look like brothers now.
Honestly.
You what, Sean?
We look like brothers. We've got the same top on, similar hairstyle.
I know. The marketing thing, how's the sales going now? Anyways, she said last week they were doing good.
Yeah, there's over. I don't think I've checked since last week, but there's over 50 sold last week, which I think is pretty good. That means 50 people potentially in the DW stadium. That's 100 seats in social distancing terms of people wearing NHS shirts. So that's pretty good.
Really good. Absolutely.
So here we go. Right, what have we got to talk about this evening? Well, we've got the proposal of what I think brought the day after we were on the show last week of this sort of three modelled structure, which got leaks last week, and I don't think people were very happy of it getting leaked. One of the chief executives or one of the main bods in Super League managed to get it to the press. So what is that? So that's the three models. To run very quickly through it, Model 1 sees basically the grand final would be on the 28th of November. Model 2 would see the grand final pushed back to December. And Model 3 would see the grand final played in mid-January. But that would probably get most of the fixtures, including the loot fixtures. Mark's shaking his head, so that's a good place to start, Mark. First of all, we've got something to go with. We've got three proposals there. What are your thoughts on theirs, and what you prefer? What's your preferred one?
Well, I think it was right that it got leaked because you can then air some more views about this, and we certainly talked about it in detail on this week's Super League pod. If you want to listen to that, we got lots of views, and we had a poll where our listeners voted, and the outcome of the poll was basically that most people prefer option 1, and all of the people on the show on Monday night all preferred option 1 too. It makes the most sense in terms of the least disruption to next year, which is a significant and important year with the World Cup coming up. This year's already screwed, so why jeopardize other years for this year? Doesn't seem to make sense to me. So many problems with going past the end of November as well in terms of player contracts that'll run out, new signings might come into effect. You could end up with a team getting some new players that they've signed for 2021 in for the semi-finals and the final in December. If you do option 2, how's that seem right? It doesn't. You could have a player playing for one team 1 week and then another team the next week, because that's when the contracts run to.
So model
it seems
one,
a bit strange.
You said model one would be your preferred one, and sort of discussing it on Super League Pod. That's the sort of general consensus that you've got to. So model one. So reading from the BBC website, would see 9 rounds of matches between the 1st of October and the 15th of November, with one playoff semi-final and the grand final on the 28th of November. The Challenge Cup would restart with a 6th round in late August and the final played on the 25th of October. Obviously, matches for all of these start in August, 16th of August roughly. The 1st of October date is that date of being played behind closed doors. Potentially fans being allowed into the stadium. So that's model one. Matthew, I don't think you're frozen on the screen, are you? Just shake your head or something. Oh, you are frozen again. I think your internet connection. You need to go back in your hamster wheel and spin it around a little bit, because we can't see you particularly well. We probably can hear you.
Option one also appeals to everyone who says that they don't like loop fixtures anyway, because that's what's cut out of that model completely.
There we go, Matthew. You're moving. You did well there, freezing. Are you all right? Welcome. Good evening.
Coronavirus.
Welcome.
How you doing? Everything was dead clear for me then. You just couldn't hear or see me.
Makes a change. We'll come to you in just a second and get your takes on the sort of proposal for the season started. Stu, so there are your options. Grand final in November, December, January. Obviously, what Mark's picked up on there, we'll touch on that in just a second, is the consequences for 2021. Greg English potentially could come in for part way through for Warrington if we use sort of Model 2 or Model 3. Stu, your preferred method in there?
I agree with Mark. Sensible option. As you say, there's different options, as we say, but the one that Mark said makes sense. You know, when you look at it and you're thinking of the potential of the season finishing to be started again. So I agree with Mark on that one. I mean, we've looked at them all. I agree with Mark's, definitely, absolutely 100%.
You don't have to agree with him, you know. You're not contract. Just checking you've got a choice.
Yeah, I know that. When I've read into them, that one makes sense. But let's just say it's the RFL, and nothing makes sense with them, does it? So we'll wait and see.
Gary says Model 3 was today virtually ruled out by Robert Elson. Josie says scrap the Challenge Cup this year, which in itself seems... I mean, scrapping the Challenge Cup, there's lots of issues with that, I think. But I guess one of the biggest issues is the finals and where they're going to be played at. But Matthew, we'll come to you.
Well, another issue with the Challenge Cup is there's more chance that League One and the Championship that won't resume than obviously Super League, because especially if promotion and relegation's called off, there's nothing really going on down there. They can't afford to play games behind closed doors and that sort of stuff. So there's a number of teams that would have to be kind of given buys because they'd be playing against currently against League One or Championship opposition in the next round of the Cup. So that's an issue with the Cup, I suppose.
And not Wigan, of course, because as the annual fixture of Wigan versus Warrington, the Challenge Cup was already drawn earlier in the year. Matthew,
you know that the 24-game model, one of our extra games will be against Warrington and one will be against Saints.
Our first game back will be against Warrington. They'll just like us playing at Warrington probably at Headingley just because it's a different venue. Matthew, welcome. Your gremlins have stopped now. There's no hairband in your hair this year. This week. We were talking about sort of returning to rugby league. So we've got the 3 models that have been proposed. Grand final in November, December or January. Your take on that? What do you think would be the preferred method or the way that we should sort of resume the season?
Did you say the third one's been ruled out now?
Well, Gary's put in there it's virtually being ruled out. But I think the thing with Model 3 is the fact that it gives clubs the best opportunity of getting the income that they would have got this year anyway, because they're practically playing a full season, aren't they? That's the biggest attraction, I think, to Model 3.
Every game but Magic, in it, basically.
Yeah, they get the loop fixtures in, they get those home games, hopefully, after October. So that's the attraction for Model 3, I guess, is it's the most profitable in theory.
Okay. Well, whichever one it ends up being of those models, it'll be good. I can see the viewing figures and more people being into it than ever before, because I think when it actually comes back, lots of, how can we put it, armchair fans, which I'm going to be fans as well, but I think there's lots of people. Why am I funny? I'm
Are
sorry.
you hiding under a table or something?
Single eye. It looks as if he's in a desk, you know. Waiting for the mail order. Looks as if he's does.
Are you in a box?
Well spotted,
No.
Mark. Well spotted, pal. Well spotted.
Oh, it's because it's the thing above my head here. Hang on. I've currently got my phone on charge. There we go. Currently got my phone on charge, so I've got enough battery on my phone for when I go
I've
out.
never known
I
anybody
what
run
you were
through
saying, 'cause
phone
your hair
battery.
was brushing in and out of your little desk.
It's like flattening it down every time you came forward.
Oh, I've
He's
currently got
hiding
my
his hair, man. He's hiding his hair.
laptop with the charger underneath holding it in. Anyway, it's another thing.
Yeah, it's vibrating
So,
now.
Yeah, sorry, it's messy. So I think what's going to happen is when we return, I think there'll be more fans. Depends if everything's settled down or not. When it comes to grand final and the playoffs, I think there'll be more fans than ever before because they'll appreciate it more because we've not had it for so long too. Obviously in football at the elite league, they don't have that same problem. But I think for us, what I mean is they fill the stadiums. So I think that there's going to be more people watching at the actual games if it's safe.
Turn that bloody phone off.
What's going on?
People are texting me and emailing me at the same time. I can't do anything about it. It's because it's on 4G rather than... Anyway.
You can't mute your phone.
There's something wrong with that phone. It runs out of battery
Can't mute
every week.
notifications.
Can't put it on silent. You'll get
We were getting more sense out of it.
Anyway.
Where we going? It'll all be all right at the end of the day. I think we'll all appreciate it more than ever before. And wouldn't it be funny, like Christmas and New Year, if it was mid-January? You said mid-January, didn't you? The final would be.
Yeah.
That would literally be, apart from the Australian Open in tennis, pretty much the only big sporting spectacle. Am I right?
Well, I mean, I think you're forgetting about football and things like that, and probably cricket outside of the country, and probably rugby union. But apart from those four sports, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, it would be. Some may feel like it could do really well, and then suddenly we see it as an opportunity, and they say, "Shall we have it this way every year?"
I mean,
later in the year.
I mean, I think what happens with that is we turn back the clock and we end up in 1995 with winter rugby, and we have the same problems as the reason why they moved from winter rugby to summer rugby. But to answer, we'll come on to that in a second, because I think there's something in that which is Model 3 about the sort of playing those games over that Christmas period. But to answer the question that I asked you, what would you prefer? Grand final no, it's not a tricky one. Of every question I've asked you, it's multiple choice. Yeah. November, December, or January. Pick your favourite month.
This is why I always failed at school in my exams, because I didn't really answer the question. I would say January.
Okay. So that leads nicely onto one of the potential things, Mark.
What about your favourite, Sean?
I do like Model 3. It's practically almost unworkable. But that's what I like about it. The thing that I like about Model 3 is this opportunity to almost get that full season in. You look at the sort of, take St Helens for example, missing out on the crowd that they would have got at Good Friday. They have that opportunity to recoup that on Boxing Day to have a Wigan Saints derby. I think, which is the point that Matthew was making. Is you get those big games over a Christmas period, where people are more likely to attend the games, all being well that we should be able to attend them. So it does give you that opportunity of still getting those big games that we missed out on. It has dire consequences, and I think as a sport, whether we're good enough to work it out with the contracts, like you've said, Mark, in terms of player contracts. Jackson Hastings, for example, although he has a contract, we believe, for 2 years, if he signs a contract with an NRL club, Does that mean that he leaves in January before the semi-finals to go and start pre-season with the NRL club? Luke Thompson, there's talks of him going over sooner, but does Luke Thompson have to leave St Helens earlier so that he can go over to Canterbury to start his training over there?
Well, he's not contracted at St Helens, is he? After the end of this year,
exactly. So,
or is he?
No,
he's not. He's out of contract. Yeah.
I mean, he's signed for Canterbury, hasn't he? So he signed from Canterbury in effect from the 1st of November. He's a Canterbury player. So what consequence does that have even in Model 2? So that's probably what makes that first, the sort of the short season, Model 1 as it's called on the BBC website, where the final would be played on the 28th of November. Luke Thompson, can he get a month's loan from Canterbury to stay at St Helens for 28 days if they get to the grand final? You'd think that they could work something out, but there's big issues there that still we're nowhere near to resolving. And then there's a knock-on effect of the World Cup, Mark, which you mentioned. Is that one of your biggest concerns? The fact that we're potentially putting ourselves at risk for the spectacle that rugby league needs next year.
Well, you'll have your players, your Super League based players playing 15 months flat out, potentially, unless you're going to impact on what you can do next season and disrupt a second season when you'd hope that everything could be back to normal by then. So it just doesn't make sense to me to disrupt two seasons.
I think the suggestion is that next season, if we went with Model 3, would start in March, and it would be a shorter season without the Luke fixtures next season.
It doesn't. I don't understand why we've got the £16 million loan to cover some of these gaps in income this year. Earn our income back again next year. Get the thing back on an even keel next year. Don't have the players burnt out by the World Cup. Don't have the fans burnt out by the World Cup. If you're going to 1/2 games every week for all that time, it doesn't seem. It doesn't seem the most sensible plan. Make a plan that's going to make 2021 successful, because 2020 is already a written off year in terms of being the normal type of year, but 2021 doesn't have to be.
So of all of those models, of the 3 that have been proposed, there's probably a Model 4 somewhere on the line that somebody's working on based on reaction. That's probably split. Even on this screen here, it's split 50-50 between Model 1 and Model 3. All of those involve a restart in August behind closed doors, probably at neutral venues. But that means that Wigan won't be playing until sort of the 16th of August. Catch-up games for the likes of Catalans and St Helens and Leeds that still need to play each other will take place the weekends we led before that. So that gives an opportunity. Stu, do you think there's an opportunity here for the start of August for Rugby League to host something a little bit different, like a Nines weekend or something similar, a Sevens weekend, whatever it might be, to sort of get Rugby League back for those clubs that are not involved in those games right at the start?
Yeah, as you say, both new ideas, give it a shot. Why not? It's game practice for the lads, 9-a-side or 7-a-side, whatever. Nines, as you say, they do it in the NRL, so why can't we do it in Super League? As you say, the lads that aren't playing that weekend, do we? Why not?
And now that we've got this as a start, I mean, would you expect Wigan to play some sort of pre-season friendlies, bearing in mind that there's games before there, there's a 2-week period where other Super League clubs are going to be playing each other. Do you expect it? I mean, it'd be weird, but mid-season, pre-season friendlies, whatever they might be called.
Yeah, we could, couldn't we? As you say, we've got to get match fitness up. But let's say, give the Nines a go. You know what I mean? It's a good way. It's fast. But do that. I would do the Nines. But I just do a Nines tournament.
There's 5 teams that don't have any catch-up games at all.
Right. Okay.
So realistic, you'd be looking at Wigan, Castleford, Warrington, Hull FC, and Salford being those teams, because everyone else has got 1 or 2 catch-up games, and Catalans have got 3.
And I guess there's a consequence perhaps of inviting championship teams if their season's sort of written off and the furlough scheme still, there might not be that option. But I guess if the championship was to restart, you then got the potential of inviting clubs that might want it. It's Derek Beaumont, obviously very sort of vocal in wanting the return. So you might have teams like Lee or Whitehaven, people like that. It doesn't matter who plays in it, really. It's just to get fitness levels up. So we're going to put that idea that started here today. We'll take credit for it. We're going to call it the NHS Nines. It's going to be pay-per-view. It's going to be It'll be all the teams will be hosted at Headingley. They'll all be staying at the Headingley Lodge in the hotel next door at the cricket ground. So we've got the facilities. They've got a warm-up ground just on the cricket pitch on the outfield, just to sort of get warm, and then they go out.
Have games going on both pitches at the same time.
Yeah, just have a festival. Yeah, just. So there we go. That was the idea that was founded here. Okay, guys. Yeah, we're all on board with that.
Yeah.
Matthew, you on board with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
The August start does make sense because that's when the government furlough scheme is going to start to wind down and employers are going to have to start contributing more towards the 80% anyway. So from a financial point of view, it makes sense. From a Sky contract point of view, if Sky's next instalment's due in July, but we've said we've got games coming from August, there's more reason for Sky to keep paying us because there's a planned return date. So from a financial point of view, the August start makes sense. It's just the rest of it that still needs ironing out. But it's good that they've come up with some options and they've got a bit of a plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when I first read it and I saw August, I was like, August we're in May and we're talking about an August return. It feels miles away. But I'm sure it'll come around. Martin says he's not going to Yorkshire. I don't think anybody will be, pal, because it'll still be closed. I think what I meant by it being hosted, and Josie says always at Leeds, what I mean by that is the fact that we need a ground where this imaginary NHS Nines tournament can be hosted. There's not going to be any fans in there in August, but we need a facility that's a rugby league venue, I would suggest, and with the capacity to host that many clubs. As we announce the official Wigan Fan TV NHS Nines tournament. It's probably too long. That we'll keep it NHS Nines.
Yeah,
we'll let somebody else take the credit for it.
We'll just commentate on it.
Yeah, we can do.
Stu can do the South Sea Islander names. That's the way we're going to do it.
Not a problem, Mark.
The Whitehaven games.
Yeah. Calm down, Sean.
No, we could do that. Because it's going to be pay-per-view, which was your original idea. But you can have it where you press the red button for alternative commentary, and that alternative commentary will be for your Cumbrian brethren to sort of listen to you because they'll understand you.
Ever say you what's his name and
yeah. Have you ever watched that fans? Have you watched that fans thing with the football on Sky Sports?
Fans
against each other. I would love to see that done for Super League. I would. Could you imagine, Sean? Matt McCauley representing Wigan against our friend from VTV doing that. Oh man, there'll be a riot, wouldn't there? There would. I'd love to see that. I think we should put that forward.
He was representing Wigan, I think.
Imagine that, Mark. Ooh,
it would be entertaining. There'd be some short-term entertainment value in it for sure. Yeah.
Talking of previous guests on the show, Matthew, your pal Sandy's been in touch. She wants to know where your TikTok videos are. You're letting her down, she says. The Wigan runner on TikTok. What I'm sure you promised this. What you're letting Sandy down?
I haven't got time for TikTok. I know that I get addicted to it, and so many people have said it's brilliant.
It's not a drug, you know.
Well, let's be honest, they are, aren't they, when you get these apps? You don't just pick it up and put it down. But tell her, you know what? Tell her tomorrow.
You tell her she's listening. You tell her.
Sunday, send me on Messenger or Twitter the song that you want me to do it to. I'll download it and I'll try, because I saw a video. A friend of mine sent me a video that he did a few days ago. I'm not going to reenact it because I look like an idiot, but it was that I saw months ago. So I'll do that one with her.
I think your first video's got to be Sandy, hasn't it, from Greece? That's what you've got to do as your first one.
Summer Nights, there you go.
Yeah, you've got to do something from Greece, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, a bit of chip fat on that hair, Matt. Bit of chip fat on the hair.
You've got the hair for it.
Oh, you've got it now, lad. Bit of chip fat on, cream it back.
One,
There
it's
you
the
go.
gel I'm using, right? And it makes my hair look greasy, doesn't it? But it's actually not. It's just
It's just really long.
And that you keep putting your head underneath a kitchen bench all the time.
Hey.
There we go.
Like,
That it's not long enough to get in your eyes yet, though, is it? So I
it
don't
never
understand.
will, 'cause it's curly. I could make it stand up. I could put a pen in here and it'd get lost.
You did
Yeah.
last week. You've already done that. You've already done that trick.
It's in my hair.
I don't know if that would be a good TikTok. That, to be honest.
He did. He did this last week. It's just. I don't know. Did you remember that you did that last week?
I'm not the one that was drinking alcohol.
What's next on the agenda?
What is next on the agenda? It's a good question. So today,
Gildart. What about Gildart?
Well, let's go to Gildart in just a second. Let's go to the blue squares on Twitter. So players want salary caps. So this is the sort of the news today that Twitter's been covered in blue squares, where if you've been clicking on them, it won't load anything up because it's just a blue square.
It's aggravating.
Yeah, it's bloody annoying, but it's working though because it's getting us talking about it. So this is the news today that players are saying that they want a seat at the table to discuss what's happening with the salary cap. Obviously, we spoke about it briefly last week. The reduction potentially of the salary cap back down to 1.8 million from 2.1 million. The players have now joined up with the unions and GMB, pretty much fronted by Gareth Carvel, and they're basically saying enough's enough. We want a seat at the table. It's our livelihoods that are being discussed without us having a say at the table. So this kind of campaign that's been orchestrated today, Mark, your sort of reaction to it? It's coordinated. It's had an effect. It's everything that I wouldn't expect from rugby league, to be honest with you. But it's been effective. It seems so far.
I think the players do deserve more of a say. I think you look around big sports elsewhere around the world, and players do tend to have a bit of a bigger say. So there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. I don't know what the players will achieve. I don't know what their aims are other than to get themselves more money. I don't know how realistic it is that they're going to get more money. Are they going to give up something as well? But they've had to give up a lot this year, haven't they, with the salary reductions, things like that. So the owners have to take a look at that and think these players have given something back. We have to give something to them to sort of make up for that. And generally speaking, I'm for trade union sort of representing workers and that sort of stuff in the right environment. And this seems like an environment where it would be the right sort of environment, because it's not like the trade unions negotiating with one big employer and that's it. The trade unions getting people together from different employers, so you can actually help force through a collective kind of best practice. So players who are at clubs that are treated better with certain things might then be able to share those things more freely, and the clubs might be able to all be forced to step into line with best practice stuff. That's all really boring, but yeah.
I mean, it is. It's not anything. But
I don't have a joke to make about it, sadly.
I mean, I guess one of the biggest.
The first one I saw was Conrad Hurrell, so I just assumed he'd press the wrong button or something.
I mean, one of the biggest things for this is that the salary sacrifices or reductions, or however you might want to call it, they're not just for this furlough period for a lot of the players. They're until November time or until the end of the season. A lot of players have agreed to take these pay cuts. So having a seat at the table kind of feels like the very least. It's not necessarily.
That's another reason why option 3 is a bit of a joke, actually. I haven't even thought of that. The owners are trying to decide that we're going to pay you less for longer, and next year when you've got to pay you full, it's going to be a shorter season. So we'll say you get paid less then too, because you're playing less games. Doesn't seem nah.
Stu, a question for you from Facebook. Can you see possible strikes from players if it gets a bit awkward between parties? Feels a bit political, that, Stu, but go on, do your best.
Well, you never rule it out, do you? You know, you never rule it out. I know we've all had to take reductions and that in these bad times, but we've all got to muscle up and.
It would feel bad
as you
taste,
say,
wouldn't it, at the minute?
Yeah, it does, and it's in these bad times. Well, what can we do? But just do our best. I know clubs are struggling, and we appreciate this. And one thing and another, especially the lower clubs with our Super League, they're struggling more than the Super League teams. So, as you say, we've just got to muscle up and go again. I think the players shouldn't. I think they should be grateful that, as you say, there's people out of work in these times.
Yeah.
And the rest of it. And as you say, I think they should be grateful for what they've got. There you go.
In terms of, Chris has put a comment on here as well. The players have got to take players' union seriously. I seem to remember a union was trying to be formed a few years back, but no one seemed interested. I think there was League 13 or something like that, which Wilkin and Peacock were involved in.
Yeah, John Wilkin was big involved in it, wasn't it? And one of the reasons it didn't work out is because there was already members of the GMB union.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's more consolidated, and it's with the support they've got is with a bigger trade union body that actually understands these things kind of more. So I think it's on a better footing than that time. And so I think that's a positive.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things that this probably assists is preventing perhaps that reduction in salary cap, because you've not just got fans of clubs like Wigan, like us, that don't want the salary cap being reduced. You've got the players themselves now saying that we don't want the salary cap to be reduced, of course, because that's going to affect their salary. It's going to affect, somebody's put on here about the youngsters, not being paid a lot. We discussed that previously about that minimum threshold being removed. But also the likes of, Martin puts on here, the likes of Harry Smith and Morgan Smithies, it has a knock-on effect down that pyramid. If you're still paying your big stars the big money, you soon run out of money for those players who get opportunities like they did last year as well. Matthew, your take on that and the salary cap? I know we spoke briefly about it last week, but in these times, is it a case that if you can afford to pay, you pay what you can afford to pay, I guess, as a club? Nobody's asking clubs to pay 2.1 million on players. It's up to 2.1 million on players. So, Matthew, your take on that with and the sort of the union things that have happened today?
So it makes perfect sense for the players to have at the very least a voice, doesn't it? They've got to at least put their debate to the table to why. Obviously, they'll say it shouldn't be decreased by that much. So how much was it? 2.1 to 1.8 was it?
2.1 million to 1.8. So basically, what the suggestion is
going back 2 years.
Yeah, that's what it was in 2017.
Is that round about 15%, something like that? So about 15% off. So the wages. So someone who's like a marquee player, let's say someone who's on £150,000 a year, are they really going to recognise a difference in the standard of life that they would have by that deduction?
They're probably not going to be the people who face the reduction. It's probably going to be your squad players, not your stars. It's going to be those
players down the pyramid, isn't it? There's not enough money to trickle down to the likes of Ethan Havard and Harry Smith and Morgan Smithies.
Yeah. See you in Melbourne, Ethan.
It seems crazy for them to get a 15% reduction when they're already going to be on something that's quite low, doesn't it? So, again, that seems like it's straightforward. It shouldn't go down 15%. There's something in tennis that exists where in the Grand Slams over recent years where the top players in their counts on their committee, they've got together to make sure that the first round losers in the Grand Slam get more money, because they work out that, and I think it's players outside the top 70 or top 80 in the world in the men's game don't make a living or enough money to actually call that a sustainable lifestyle. So players that go out in the first round in the Grand Slams, they used to earn about £3,000, which seems like $3,000 and they lost. That's fine, but considering highest Grand Slam, that's the elite level, and they've got to fly there. They've got it so imagine a safe American flying to Europe. You've got your coach, you've got your physio, you've got your expenses when you're there. Suddenly, losing the first round at the elite level might only even out, with what your costs are. So they got it nearly doubled over, I think, 2 years, and I think it's about 6,000 or 8,000 now, actually, where if they go out in the first round. So it kind of protects the people that aren't at the top, if that makes sense, where your top players are still making about £2 million when they win it, but it's looked after them, and now they reckon that it's about the top 150 players in the world, since they've made that changes, now can call tennis, a proper job.
Yeah.
And be a professional where they're making a living from it. So it's almost doubled the amount of players from doing that.
Whereas in rugby league, we've absolutely just scrapped that, haven't we? I mean, obviously the difference in amounts is completely different in here. We're talking about tennis players winning millions in terms of prize money, but what rugby league or Super League have just done is remove. What was the threshold, Mark? Was it?
It was the RFL who removed it, because they control everything to do with salary cap regulations and
what
salaries.
Was the amount? Was it 11,000 a year?
15,000 you'd have to be paid to be able to play. Your minimum annual salary would have to be 15,000 if you played a Super League game, which as a temporary measure, if we're going to play multiple games a week, does make sense. But on the flip side of that, the players have got if the players have got a good union, they can make sure that that is a temporary measure, and that we do, like Matthew says, have a position where we're encouraging basically young people to stay in the game, because it financially makes sense for them to do so, rather than being lost from the game, because it wouldn't financially make sense to them to stay in the game if they're going to get paid that little
or
to
even
play for
try the game
club, like Matthew says. Yeah.
Put Sandy's comment on there is how is paying players less who are already poorly paid going to inspire new generations of sport? I mean, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's in terms of sports.
Yeah, how do you expand the talent pool? You're playing something that you're going to get hurt from. You're going to have physical consequences for the rest of your life in most cases, and we're going to pay you very little because we can't afford to. Fair enough, but if we can't afford to, it's not the players that should lose out. We shouldn't be having as much clubs to get the money spread around.
I think that's probably one of the things that having the union on board may assist with, is this minimum threshold that Matthew's talking about.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the way to view it, isn't it? Look at the minimum threshold rather than focusing on what's George Burgess earning, what's Jackson Hayes. Let's focus on what the kids start coming through.
I think Gareth Carville has that sort of focus.
Yeah.
By that I've read him saying and stuff, it's come out of there's been a couple of clangers like, if the game's going to start again, we want to be paid full again because we've got the 16 million. That was wrong. He misjudged all of that, and really they would have been better to keep the powder at that time. However, there's other things that come out that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, good. That was a good chat. Well done, people. But I like the idea of this sort of looking after the minimum and then building our way up from there, because that's the way that we look after talent, is it? And we retain talent, and that dictates how much you get paid at the top of the pyramid, really, rather than the other way around, which is the danger, I think, with salary cap sports. So one issue of having a salary cap sport or being Wigan is that we see players go over NRL. The NRL restarts tomorrow. Wigan B team, as Mark is wearing the shirt of. Bateman, Sutton, Williams, etc. Oliver Gildart today it's been announced that he's changed agents now. I'm wondering whether a player changing agents in non-coronavirus times wouldn't a newspaper, but it does at the moment. It's something to talk about. He's changed his agent to an Australian-based agent. He's out of contract at the end of 2021. He can leave before then for a designated fee, whatever that might be. It might be a tenner, who knows? But he can leave at some point, and now he's appointed an agent based in Australia. Stu, should we be concerned about that? Is it just another George Williams situation where he's going to go at some point, we just accept it with the view that he might come back? He won 2 grand finals, to a Challenge Cup final, won the World Club Championship, and he's still, 23, if that? So Stu, your thoughts on that, and the likelihood, I think, that Gildart will go to NRL soon?
Yeah, first thing, well, we all know it's a matter of when it's going to go. Good luck to the lad. He wants to try over there. As I say, all the rest of the Wiggers are over there. They'll be come over here. It's good crack and all that. Good luck to the kid. Absolutely get over there. Because what I would say, if he goes over there, there's no reason why Canberra can't have the away top of Wigan hoops. Obviously, because look at them all over there. Do you know what I mean? But no,
I mean, there's nothing to say that
absolutely.
he is going to Canberra at this moment, but certainly to
No.
the NRL.
I'm just saying as an inside, Shauna. Yeah, good luck to the lad. You know, is as you say, what he's won. Definitely. But wish the lad good luck if he goes. Definitely. We'll be sad to see him go. Absolutely. But it's one of them things. Wish the lad good luck, and no, we'll have first refusal with the rest, like the thing if they come back from the NRL. So, as you say, good luck to Lolly.
Matthew, your take on that, 23 as an age to, I mean, what a position to be in, having achieved what he's achieved so far in a relatively young career, pretty much scored in every final that he's played in. He's an England and a Great Britain international, scored that fantastic try for England against New Zealand a couple of years ago. I mean, whether he makes it over in the NRL or not is up for, we won't know unless he tries it. But Matthew, your thoughts on another Wigan youngster potentially going over to Australia?
Well, if you wanted a betting tip from me, it would be
he's off.
You know, if he's got an agent from Australia, you wouldn't do that, would you? If you want him to get your deals in the UK. So he's going to go, and like Stu just said, you've got to say good luck to him. He's got to,
absolutely, Matt. Yeah, absolutely.
He's achieved a lot in Wigan already at a young age, and if I was in his shoes and if I had the balls to do it, I think I would want to go over there and try and see how I could get on as well. Burgess did it, didn't he? And Wigan will always take him back, you'd have thought, if it doesn't work out for him. And if their salary cap's not going down 15% over there as well, that could also be a reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't blame him, can you? He's got to think of number one. He's already done a lot at Wigan.
Mark, your golden edge is disappearing.
It's tragic, isn't it?
But at least Farrell will still be standing. On his own.
Yeah. Well, it's the most important part, really. But have I ever mentioned that? I love Liam Farrell. But yeah, it's
like David last week then. You got Jesus.
I don't have out much else. I get when people get annoyed when players go, and I get why people sort of think, why should we just take them back if they do come back and that sort of stuff. But we're talking about a top echelon player. He don't want to play in a competition where they want to pay the players less, does he? He want to play in a competition where he's going to be at the top platform to show that he's an international caliber player. And you can't blame any player in the current climate for it. If our competition wants to keep going backwards, we've tried to stop that drain by having stuff like the marquee rule, by actually starting to increase the salary cap again, which it hadn't increased for 10 years. We started to increase it again over the last 3 years. Yeah. And now half the clubs, all the Yorkshire type bastards, want to take it back. It's just, that's the sort of consequence you're going to get.
And we seem to be the club that probably suffers more than any because of our academy.
We suffer more because we've had our success at the time where the NRL spending capability has increased.
Yeah.
So they'll see our players. They'll see that our players are hardened professionals who can perform on the big stage, and they'll want to give those players a go because of that. And then also, when you hear from your mates who are over there what it's like being over there, you find out that your mate's got an agent, so you think, oh, well, I'll speak to this bloke that they're speaking to. It's a lot easier to speak to people if you know someone who's already speaking to them, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So unfortunately, it snowballs a little bit like that, which is a shame that it kind of breaks up a lot of our young talent. But at the same time, I suppose we should be proud because the other way to look at it is we're the only, other than Saints producing one for him, well, potentially one or two, but we're the only Super League club that's producing players that the top competition wants at the moment. And until we get serious about becoming the top competition on a level with them, and stop triumphing signings of 32-year-old bust players who haven't played for 2 years, and start actually thinking about 23-year-old absolute studs who should be playing in our competition, then it's just it's going to go that way. It's pretty shit, but
Joe, we've got to go through that first, or that period of signing the likes of Greg Inglis. Like, I always compare it to MLS in America. The fact that you've got to sign the Beckhams and you've got to sign the Steven Gerrards and the Ibrahimovic, when they're past the sell-by date, because that's what gets people on seats. Like Greg Inglis, Sonny Bill Williams, Sam Burgess when he comes to Wigan. They get people on seats though, don't they? Because they're the names. And yeah, it doesn't. To people outside of the sport, we've got Sonny Bill Williams in the sport, we've got Greg Inglis in the sport. Nobody cares that he's 39, but it's that name.
No one outside the sport knows who Greg Inglis is. Let's not pretend that Greg Inglis is a worldwide superstar name. But he's a rugby league superstar name. But I could walk down the street and find no one who knows who Greg Inglis is.
Yeah, I take the point on Greg Inglis. I think Greg Inglis is that sort of global. It's a Darren Lockyer type signing, Andrew Johns type signing, isn't he? In terms of his big.
We should be talking about Oliver Gildart, Mark Percival, people like that, Callum Watkins, like they are Greg Inglis, because they could be that good. And the only place they're going to get to actually show that and get the recognition that Greg Inglis's name brand recognition is by playing in Australia, unfortunately, at the moment.
But I think we've got to go through that period. We've got to go through that period, though. I think of signing players. Through, Sandy there says she had no idea who Greg Inglis was. But I think the fact that we've got Sam Burgess playing in Super League next year and Sonny Bill Williams.
To be fair, she didn't know who Oliver Gildart was either.
That's what she might have been talking about, to be fair. But Sam Burgess is known. Sonny Bill Williams is known mainly in this country because of the rugby union connections. I think that's the biggest difference. It's not because they're global superstars. Probably Sonny Bill Williams is that sort of suppresses sport. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that we get Sonny Bill Williams and Sam Burgess playing at the DW next year, I think is really, 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 really exciting. I think I've hammered that home.
What I would say is I wouldn't want anyone giving Oliver Gildart any abuse or criticism or anything like that.
So getting back onto Gildart, I think one of the things that we've got better at as fans is this acceptance of players going. I think a few years ago, probably around the time of Mossop going and Gareth Hock going, do you remember when Gareth Hock signed and then didn't go? But around that time, and Sam Tompkins, if you remember, we had that big, we had that press conference where Ian Lenigan was compelled to sort of provide a diagram of how players would go over to Wigan, and we would re-sign them as and when they would come back. I think we're over that now. I think there's an acceptance that we can't hold on to our talent, and if they do come back, they come back. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't work out for all of them.
Luke Thompson's gone, doesn't it? It helps with Wigan fans' acceptance that people like Luke Thompson and Callum Watkins have gone as well. But it's not just us anymore.
we've now got the opportunity to watch them week in, week out. We're going to be watching NRL this weekend. We're going to be watching players that have played in Super League across pretty much the whole weekend, aren't we? And that unfortunately is the situation as a sport that we're in. But I think compare it to when Joe Burgess went over, and the experience that Joe Burgess had, and then the return of Joe Burgess. Joe Burgess was fantastic when he left, and probably for the first 6 months or so when he returned, and now we're talking about our third winger, aren't we? So things obviously change within the sport as well. Fourth winger, if we get the Morgan Escaray sort of campaign going at some point this year. Carol says, Stu, do you need some fly spray?
No.
I think you must be swatting around, are you?
No, it's a charger on the phone. That's what I'm fiddling with. It's dodgier.
Have you got a new phone? Your eyes look particularly sparkly today, Stu. I don't know what it is.
I didn't want to tell him he's got one of those filters on, hasn't he?
So much sun through this part. So much sun working out in it. That's really good. Yeah, I've got a question for you. I don't know if Mark knows this. Up to press, as Oliver Gildart, who's won the most trophies between him, the most medals between him and his father?
That's a good question. You've got to go for his dad.
I'm not sure. I think he's played more games and definitely scored more tries than his dad ever did by now.
Yeah. Well, I'd hope so.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
No, the medals.
I'll tell you one thing.
Let's have a look.
He scored a try on his Super League debut. Who was that for?
Who? Oliver Gildart?
Yeah.
So Salford, wasn't it?
It was Salford, yeah. The first game he had a real splash for us, though, was Warrington away in the Super 8s that year. Do you remember that performance when he came in and absolutely skinned him?
Well, and then he never got dropped again, did he?
You knew then. You knew
And
then
he-
that he was going to be world class.
And he played all the way through to the grand final that year, didn't he? All the way through the Super X. Ian Gildart, 1986 and 1994 at Wigan, 139 appearances. You'd have to say between 86 and 94, there's a good opportunity that he's won a little bit more than two Super Leagues, one World Club Challenge. I think Oliver Gildart's probably won. Yeah.
You'd expect so, but how many of the finals did Ian Gildart play?
Well, here we go.
Pretty sure he only played us as replacement in one.
So he was there for the championship victory in 1990, 1991, 1992, 1993, 1994. He won the Challenge Cup as a substitute in 1990. That was pretty much it. And then
so he got winners' medals as part of them squads, didn't he? Which is
Matthew, before we sort of leave this evening, give us an update of where you are. Peter, sorry, before we go on to that, your friend Peter Meadows is pulling me up on the fact that we didn't answer this question last week. Who was the first Wigan player who had his transfer fee fixed by a tribunal? Does anybody know the answer before we guess?
What year was it?
I don't know.
What year, roughly?
No, he's just put that. So we're guessing blind here. I'm gonna go with, it's got to be somebody, I think, probably rugby union to rugby league. I don't know. Maybe Ford. Somebody like Ford.
Who would we have signed when they were young?
Late
else?
80s, he says. Late 80s.
Scott Quinnell? No, I don't know. There's but one.
Actually, was it not Sean Edwards when I signed him as a youngster? No.
That was early 80s, though, weren't it?
I don't know. Late 80s. Let's have a guess here. Stevens. That rings a bell.
I'm really reaching.
It says he wasn't young. In the late 80s, wasn't young. Gary's having a guess at Andy Platt.
That's not a bad shout, actually.
Scary.
I'll go for. Stu, who you going for?
I was, Sean, to be honest with you, I thought that because he come from Bradford Northern, didn't he? Get it.
Goodway? Cowie? Who did we
I
sign
mean,
for those old
from
games
Rochdale,
and that
didn't he?
sort of Rochdale,
From Rochdale, didn't he? Aye, that's right.
Okay, so the
Martin Hall come from there as well.
You ready for the answer?
Go on then.
Jed Byrne in his transfer from Salford to Wigan. We would have been here all night, Peter, and I don't think we would have said Jed Byrne, to be honest with you.
But genuinely could have looked through all the squads of that era and still said his name.
Good, fantastic knowledge. That's your task now, Peter, every week to provide something like that where we will never get the answer. Matthew, over to you, the Wigan runner. What number are we up to? What are you up to in this week in terms of competitions and hiding in what looked like a graveyard last week for your Find Me competition?
Signal was awful, wasn't it? I only found out that afterwards. But yeah, it was at Cherry Gardens that last week, wasn't it? So I'm a bit more prepared for this week. So as soon as this finishes, my battery's up to 79. As long as I can get that up to over 80, I'm going to get ready at 10 o'clock for day run 1,243. I'm going to be running. And the first person that guesses well in the video, I'm going to give. In fact, 1 second.
Get some off the kitchen. Tin of beans.
Yeah, some beans. You're going to the Heinz. You're going to Heinz. That's where you're going.
Prizes to give away. There you go. I'm going to give away 2 tickets to cinema for the person that wins. That reminds me. Did that person ever contact you?
No, mysterious person who won the quiz that time. I think it might have been Ewan, who set the questions just under a pseudonym.
I don't have Empire Cinemas down south.
We've been validated to this, so that one's gone. But yeah, so I'm going to give away to the person that guesses first. But it's good because I've been planning this for 3 weeks. I just never had the chance.
Okay, so it's going to be a good one then.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I've got. It's so funny because in the background, I'm just checking the website. Man, I shouldn't say anymore because that gives it away.
I can see it actually reflecting in your eyes.
No,
we could see if it was on Stu's phone.
No, it really was reflecting in your eyes. Then go on, a bit closer.
We've closed it. Oh, if you'd have seen it then, that would have been awful. Right. So anyway, I'm going to do that at 10 o'clock tonight. I've nothing related to rugby. There's one good thing I'm doing this week I should mention. Well, like what I started doing now is children's competitions as well to do with rainbows. However, no one's entered this week, strangely enough. So what I'm doing is I'm giving until I've run out of my cinema tickets. Here's my wad of cinema tickets I've got left at mine. Until I look like I'm rich, don't I? Got a bit of money. Anyway,
Gellin.
Oh, yeah.
Doing rainbow competitions for children, just to do drawings with rainbows. And this week I said to do with running. So anyone that's got children under 12 can enter that one. And I've got a gin, a company called Hogmore Distillery. They've created. No, for adults. Sorry. Have a look. Seriously, right? It's blue and it goes purple. It goes purple when you add a mixer to it. The drink, it's amazing. And
David Bailey, for God's
What?
sake.
So if you put orange juice in it goes purple?
Is that? Oh, I didn't know that. Maybe that's how it happens. So
I think somebody's been winding you up on that.
Gins can get a bit of a purpley hue in certain light anyway, can't they?
Yeah, Martin says it's not just expired.
If you put strawberry liqueur in it, it goes really, really bloody pissed.
Anyway, kick 8. It looks good. That they're lovely people as well. Yeah. So,
Have you had any tie-ins with Kerry Bakewell yet?
Has David not put you in touch with Kerry Bakewell yet?
Well,
we haven't heard his review on the buns, have we?
No.
He probably woke up with his head on the buns.
He wishes.
So what run number was it, Matthew? Sorry, I missed that.
1,243 today. And my knee's feeling a lot better than it was this time last week. Last week my knee was a mess because basically when I play tennis now, it's constant on my mind. It's the movement going side to side where I can do something to my knee. So I've not played tennis for a week and I've gone easy on it. So I had paracetamols for 2 days, but I've stopped again now. So yeah, it's not as hard as it sounds. Just
how are you getting by without the massages and that sort of side of it?
It's a very good point that I was speaking to my physio today, because obviously he's not allowed to see anyone. He wouldn't be insured at the moment, so he can't see me. So I definitely would have had it strapped last week. The strapping, I don't know if it's psychological more than anything when I just know I've got it on. Because what I do is I wear pants now as well more often than shorts.
That's a relief. That is a relief.
Again, not for the kids.
No, but I mean when I'm running, because I just feel like it's just got something extra around.
I would wear pants anytime, Matthew, particularly when you're in public.
Anyway, but yeah, it is that because I've not seen David now since February. So that's the longest I've gone with a massage or treatment of any sort since this began. Because David started to me in the early days, yeah.
I mean, amazing insight into the life of the Wigan runner that you've just started wearing pants. But we'll keep up the good work, Matthew, as always. In particular, that's a nice competition for children. But the disclaimer is that they don't win the out-of-date gin. Mark, bring us up to speed with Super League Pod before we leave. What's on there this week?
Well, we've done kind of everything we could come up with for the lockdown period now that we've got games coming back. So we went through every single position in the rugby league on the rugby league field and picked out our favourite players. So you can go back and listen to some of those. Then we did favourite stadiums to visit, and then this week we did unsung heroes.
Favourite urinals to visit. That would be a good one.
Well, urinals got a mention, but not necessarily as favourite.
Yeah. We might have to do that.
But we definitely unsung heroes it was this week. So I picked out a few Wigan players. So maybe try and have a guess who my Wigan unsung heroes were for the last 20 years.
Tom Davis.
Willie Isa.
Willie Isa is definitely in there. Yeah.
The man.
Peter Meadows says, "What about refs? You need to do an episode on refs."
Yeah, that's a good shout. We're probably going to do some stuff around the NRL as well with that returning. We'll have game reviews to talk about on that, but refs would be a great shout. I've always had this ambition to get a load of refs kits and turn up at Magic Weekend or the Summer Bash or one of them with like a load of other like Super League Pod listeners or whatever, or you guys or whoever, dressed as the ref, supporting the ref, and every time the referee makes a good decision, just cheering, and every time that the referee makes a bad decision, blaming the players. That's always been one of my ambitions, to be honest.
So there you go. There's a subject for you over the next few weeks. Sandy says that she'll stick to the pie tour and we can do the toilet tour. We've kind of already started the toilet tour. It's coming along.
Depends where she's pie. She might not have a choice.
Yeah, true. So you might need to get Peter involved in your ref show then, and get some sort of insight. From
We have
being
a guy called Paul O'Brien, who Peter might know, who used to be a referee in the North West Counties League as well, who comes on the show occasionally as well. So that'd be a good idea. We can get people like that involved. No, not a problem. Good idea.
Carol says, is the NRL on television? Yes, it is, Carol. Every single game this weekend is on the television, so enjoy it. Starting from tomorrow morning with Brisbane. And another Englishman on show tomorrow, Mr. Farnworth, probably playing on the wing.
From the Newton Storm.
Herbie. So have a look out for Herbie Farnworth on the wing for Brisbane tomorrow. Gents, Stu, I feel bad not coming for you. Is the how are the Gardens treating you?
Yeah, but good. I tell you something. Since this COVID-19, everybody's just gone balmy wanting jobs done. It's weird. Good. I think because people's not going on holiday and that now. It's good, and we're absolutely busy, which is good. So
get a patio instead of a holiday.
Yeah, Mark. Any chance to stick bodies under, lad? At the minute, I tell you. So if you're not getting on with your wife, we can do a deal, lad. You know what I mean? A bit of Brookside job, a bit of Jordash under the patio.
And next door, I've just had the patio done, actually.
And on that bombshell, what happens in your neighbourhood, Mark, we'll leave it there. Gents, thank you for joining us. If you've got Super League Pod to listen to, and at some point, once it's recorded this evening, you can give Matt's podcast a listen to as well.
Barking Toad comedy.
The Barking Toad comedy, as he's recording his masturbate show this evening, which you may have seen in other places. Gents, thank you for your time this evening, and we'll see everybody next week. See you later, guys.
Yeah.